Is this thing on, do you know?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Welcome. Thank you for tuning into the first episode of the Mind, Body, Movement podcast. My name is Sam Fears. I'm a second-year physical therapy student. And my goal with this podcast was to essentially just spread the word about physical therapy, exercise, and some of the benefits or things that the general public might not be aware of concerning the two. Like accentuated eccentric loading, which I'll talk about here in a little while. So I want to cover physical aspects of physical therapy and exercise, of course, but also the psychological aspects of the two, because I think mindset plays a lot into motivation and our willingness to improve ourselves. So again, my name's Sam Fears. I'm a second year student doctor of physical therapy at the Arkansas Colleges of Health Education in Fort Smith, Arkansas. I'll be graduating May of 2026, going out into the real world. And my thought was I'm receiving all this great knowledge, so I figured why not go ahead and share a little bit of it with anybody out there that feels compelled to listen. So jumping right into it, let's get this show on the road. I'm going to talk a little bit about physical therapy, and then we'll get into the fun stuff, talking a little bit about AELs. So what is physical therapy? Quick, brief synopsis of physical therapy. The vision, as stated by the governing body of the profession, the APTA, American Physical Therapy Association. The goal is to transform society by optimizing movement to improve the human experience. This can be done in a variety of ways and looks significantly different from patient to patient. So as you'll see towards the end, I'm just going to list out the 10 specialties that physical therapy has. And if you're interested in looking into those a little more, I'll leave links in the description. But they do say drastically different things, but they do different things with patients with all the common goal of optimizing the patient's movement to improve their human experience, really. So all back to the vision. So that's the governing goal, I would say, of physical therapy, but it means a bunch of different things to other people. So I don't know if you've had physical therapy before. Maybe you are a physical therapist, you know a physical therapist. So physical therapy can mean a lot to different people. And if you ask any therapist, they'll give you a wide variety of answers, I'm sure. So I decided that I wanted to kind of explain what it meant to me in sort of an example. Say you're a big sports guy or gal. You really like to throw a baseball, softball, play basketball, whatever it is. Something you do pretty much daily. Well, one day you try and throw that ball just a little too far. You tear one of those rotator cuff tendons in your shoulder that keep the shoulder stable and strong. So now you can't throw that ball anymore. You've lost one of the few things in life that brought you joy. Devastation begins to set in as you feel that your better days are behind you. But fear not, my bum shoulder buddy. This is where physical therapy steps in, reaches out, says, take my hand. Let me show you something. So we step through the doors of the closet into Narnia that is physical therapy. So this is where the example gets good. Our goal is going to be to bring that shoulder back to the level it was before you injured it. And if not better, come back stronger, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And we can accomplish this through a myriad of mobilizations and exercises. So you can choose to not attend physical therapy. Without proper movement and strengthening, you may never throw that ball again and have to forego one of the few things that was the light of your life. Or you come see me, we restore mobility and strength that you once had, potentially coming back even stronger, and then you continue to light your world with the joy that is throwing that ball. Now you take the example of the ball and turn it into something that you like to do. Imagine that being taken away from you, right? That's no fun. You can't ever go about your life reclaiming that joy that was lost. And I consider that just living, I would say, to put a term to it. But you do restore that desire. You say, you know what? I want to get back. I want to put in the work. I want to get back to where I was. I want to keep having fun again. So you can be alive, essentially. Physical therapy is the difference in just living and being alive, essentially, for me. And while it's never a life or death situation, what is life without joy and happiness? So everybody wants that joy. Everybody wants that happiness. It's up to you whether or not you want to go reclaim it. So why am I here? Why am I pursuing physical therapy? Well, kind of a similar story to the shoulder story there. I was introduced to exercise through junior high sports. Picked it up a little more so in high school, but never really learned how to safely lift or how to efficiently lift. Never hurt myself, never tore anything, thankfully. But I did kind of tweak my shoulder at one point in time, and it hindered my progress. So, I go to Google, do what everybody does, Google what's going on. Never really was able to fix it. So I'll go off to college, begin to major in something, have no idea what it is I want to do, so I majored in. The only thing I knew I liked to do was working out, so I majored in exercise science. Imagine that. I took what I learned there and started going to the gym, a little more research-based exercising, and I was able to minorly rehabilitate the shoulder injury that I had sustained. And I thought, well, this kind of be something cool to do for a living. And one thing led to another, and I'm here in physical therapy school. Life is ever evolving, but this kind of feels like where I'm supposed to be. So I'm kind of glad I'm on the track that I'm on. And then just a brief history of physical therapy, because most people don't even know what it is. So most people have no clue where it even came from. So it's believed to have been born in the early 1800s from a German gymnastics gym that prioritized massage, manipulation, and exercise. So the term physiotherapy was first documented in 1851 in Germany. And over time, the word physiotherapy has kind of morphed into physical therapy. They're interchangeable. First World War came around, and when soldiers began coming back from battle, they needed rehabilitation. So the military developed a partnership between physical therapists, medical community, which helped spread the word about physical therapy a little bit as well. And then from then on out, physical therapists, they were treating soldiers coming back from war, and then they just began to expand the horizons and slowly integrate themselves into the community. Still a long way to go, but it's also come a long way too. And the future physical therapy possibilities are endless. It's growing extremely fast. The scope of practice will continue to broaden, like with physical therapists being granted the ability to order imaging directly, or being able to utilize direct access, which allows patients to come directly to a physical therapist without having to go see a physician first. This ideally can help people with simple injuries, muscle imbalances, whatever it may be, save a lot of time and save a lot of money from having to jump from clinic to clinic to clinic, running around everywhere. So the evolution is fast, and I like the direction that it's headed. Let's talk about something interesting now. This isn't supposed to be a boring documentary. Accentuated eccentric loading. Accentuated meaning to make more prominent, eccentric being the lengthening or stretching portion of a muscle contraction or of a muscle, and loading meaning to add some weight. I'm big on training like an athlete. You want to look like an athlete, you have to train like an athlete. Shout out to Jeff Cavalier, Athlete X, one of my inspirations. So what makes an athlete a good athlete? Well, in my opinion, it's their ability to generate power, which is sometimes referred to as explosive strength. What good is all that muscle if it takes you a day and a half to move around? And there's not much more impressive than a 260-pound guy running a 4.540. I mean, come on, you can agree with me on that. Borderline terrifying. So, and they can do that because of the immense amounts of power that they're able to generate. So power is equal to the force that you generate multiplied by the distance that you cover divided by the time it takes you to cover that distance. So to increase power based on this formula, we can either increase our force production, increase the distance that we cover, or decrease the amount of time it takes us to cover that distance. Now, the example I'm going to use, there's tons of examples, there's tons of different ways you can perform accentuated eccentric loading. But one of my goals is to jump higher. So my example is going to be something that I saw an article called Plyo AEL, which I thought was kind of cool. It's an accentuated eccentrically loaded depth jump, meaning that I drop off of a 12-inch box while holding kettlebells, land, bend my knees to go jump. At the bottom of that bend, I drop the kettlebells and explode up onto another higher box. So what this does is it loads the eccentric portion of my jump to encourage my body to generate more force, which in turn helps me to jump higher. That goal of jumping higher I've had since junior high basketball. To get better at something, what do? You practice, you train the skill you want to improve, which is what we call the principle of specificity. So if I want to jump higher, I don't go train biceps, right? I jump. That's what I do. Strengthen my legs and I jump. To kind of put this into a more digestible perspective, we're going to use an example of a spring. So consider my legs are springs, right? You compress a spring, you load it with potential energy, you release it, that potential energy converts to kinetic energy, boom, it bounces back to its original form. It opens up with some force. So our legs are going to be those springs. And as you bend your legs, you compress that spring and load it with potential energy. And then when you go to jump up in the air, you convert that potential energy into kinetic energy. You explode up off the ground. it makes sense that the more you compress that spring, the more it will bounce back. Now the kettlebells, in my example, are going to represent that extra little bit of pressure that we apply to the spring. Kettlebells are weighing me down a little bit more than my body weight would alone. So the compression allows my legs to store a little bit more potential energy because of the extra weight, like compressing a spring with a little more force. So as my body prepares to jump with this additional weight, we're going to recruit additional force by recruiting additional motor units because my body thinks, oh, we've got a little more weight, we've got to produce a little more force. I take that additional force that's been recruited, and then at the bottom of that eccentric stretch, I drop some of that weight, but I still have all this built up potential energy in my legs, in my springs. So when I go to jump, I have a little bit additional force than what I would typically with just a body weight exercise. And so the idea is that over time, your body adapts to the extra force necessary or the extra weight necessary to propel you off of the ground and eventually allowing you to jump higher. Converting type 1 muscle fibers, which are typically used for our longer form, more non-explosive exercise type activities like running a marathon, converting those fibers to more of type 2 fibers, which are explosive, short-acting fibers for things like sprinting or jumping up in the air to get a rebound. And there's so many different ways to do plyometrics, AELs, because there's so many different sport-specific ways to implement them. I do the jumping ones because I want to jump higher, but you can do them for upper body as well. You can use some sort of bench press or some sort of shoulder press, some sort of ball throw. There's tons of different things that you can do. And if AELs potentially have piqued your interest in some sort of way, if you think you want to be more explosive, more athletic, feel free to reach out to me and maybe we can talk about how AELs can benefit you. So I hope that was decently interesting. Now, like I said earlier, I'm going to kind of close it out here with just kind of listing some of the 10 specialties that physical therapy has under its umbrella. And they all have the same goal of returning their patients to that ideal living capacity. So I'm not going to describe each one of them. I'll just go through and list. And I'll leave a link in the description. So if you want to learn a little bit more about them, you can go ahead and check that out yourself. So the 10 here are, you have a cardiovascular and a pulmonary specialist. You have a clinical electrophysiology specialist. You have a geriatric specialist, neurology specialist, oncology specialist, orthopedic specialist, pediatric specialist, sports specialist, women's health specialist, and last but not least, a wound management specialty. So those are the 10 current specialties that are in the realm of physical therapy. And again, like I said, I will leave a link in the description if any of those interest you or if you want to learn a little bit more about any one of those. With that, I give you the first episode of the Mind Body Movement podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. Bruh, bruh, bruh. Ma, ba, 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 ba. La, 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 la.
Is that what you do before?
No, not really. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. They're coming for the dragon. All right, here we go. All right.
You can't hear it until that.
You play it.
I feel like you should probably just clip it on in there.
A little closer.
Just in case.
Yeah, do this whole thing and have no audio. Bang, bang. Probably not recording anymore, is it?
No, it is.
Oh, thank God.